And we're recording. Hey, my name is Chris Marquardt. You are watching Pick One Photo, the show where I invite a guest. The guest brings one of their photos. They pick one of my photos, and then we talk about those photos. And today's guest is my better half, Monika. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
This will be a very interesting episode for several reasons. I think the biggest reason is that we know each other's photography pretty well.
Yep, and on most of the trips to shoot, we go together. And I was really considering choosing one of the pictures I took before we met.
Yes.
So a picture before, I think it was 2008-ish or something. But no, I didn't like them. So I decided they're not good enough for this show. So...
All right, so we kind of, for many pictures, we know the stories behind each other's photos because there's a good chance we have been there when they were taken.
Absolutely.
We've been around. So, that is going to be very interesting.
Sometimes stories are a bit different when it comes to the perspective. I mean, I might have experienced the situation slightly different than you did, so I think...
Oh yes, of course. Let's kick it off. Let me see. So the way we usually do this is, and we'll do it the same way this time around, is that you first tell me which of my photos you chose, and then to get this out of the way. So let me switch over. Pick one photo here. By the way, everyone who's watching this, there's a whole bunch of other videos. You can find those at pickonephoto.com. So. Here are the photos. What's the number you chose?
It's number 56. It's the Lukla Airport.
56 Lukla Airport. Let me open this up.
And I'm actually not sure if this was from the year I have my best stories about, or if it's the year after. I have no idea, but I think it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't really matter. Can I place this in time? Anyway, we'll be back to those pictures, but before that, let's have a look at your photo. That's the one you brought. Okay, right. First of all, does it have a title?
Yes.
I ask this almost everyone.
You. Yeah, it's you.
The title is you. Okay, so while I know why it's titled you, maybe you can tell us why it's titled you.
Yeah, that is something. If you have ever been visiting Ethiopia, you very early on see that the kids are extremely open when you come to visit this country, and they are open to strangers, and they come and they want to be in your photo, they want to touch you, they just dance around you, and most of the time they say you. Don't ask me why they are shouting this, but they do it all the time.
I have an assumption why they do it, and I would say it's probably because most visitors, most tourists speak English, at least a lot of them.
Yeah.
Or they hear you speak English, so you is a very easy, simple English word to remember to get someone's attention. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably what it is. Because there's a lot of giving and taking there, and so it was in Ethiopia. We were together. I was in that. I think it's in a market somewhere.
It's in a market in Dire Dawa, I think. Right after we flew into that place, coming from Addis.
Yes, and Dire Dawa has an airport, and that was our start for that photo tour.
Yeah.
And in that market, we kind of fanned out. So the entire group went their own way. Everyone went to explore. And I came across those kids. I was not exactly there when you shot the photo. I came across those kids later, I think. So tell us a bit about the surroundings. What's that market like?
Yeah, that market it's a kind of a covered area within that little town or city. It has a roof, and underneath this roof there are compartments, so to say, and some people sell stuff from spices to veggies or even cloth, basically everything from household goods to stuff to eat. Mm-hmm. But it's also a place where people meet and where a lot of socializing is going on, and where the people come also for doing their laundry, cleaning household goods, dishes and whatever. So the entire life kind of outside their own home, maybe I think a big part of their life is taking place in one of those market areas. This basically the center of the place there.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, different countries have different places to do that. In the UK, I would argue it's probably the pub. In Ethiopia, it is the markets. People spend socializing is essential to their lives, and the market
Absolutely.
is where they do that. Yes.
It's not only people in there. You also find animals in there. From the chicks they sell there, but also goats running around, trying to get leftovers and basically living from the stuff they are picking up there. This is a very colorful place, although I took the picture in black and white, but it's really, really colorful. It's dark normally because under the roof, it's the place is normally packed with goods, packed with people. So there's not a lot of light coming in. I had now a bit of luck because I pointed the camera basically outside. So you see that in the back, you have a little bit of sunlight coming in. Mm-hmm. But if you go deeper into that market area, it's really dark in there.
They have these canopies over. They are like little buildings, but with open sky above them, and then that is covered with a canopy to keep out the sun or the rain. Yes,
exactly. And you have really strong contrast in there, and so it's not so easy to take a good picture because you have very dark areas and very light areas, and
Okay, so let's talk about tech for a second, because of course I know what camera this was taken with, but the initial assumption would be that some DSLR of sorts or mirrorless camera, even though this is a few years ago, so mirrorless weren't really a thing then, at least not full frame. But the assumption would be a DSLR, and then the question would be, why did you convert it to black and white? But this one's different.
Yeah, this one's different, and I'm a bit angry with myself right now because I wanted to take out the camera from the cupboard in the back to have it here. This one is taken with an old Pentax 6x7 SLR on film, so medium format. Mm-hmm. And I think the film I have in there is a Kodak Tri-X pushed to ISO 1600, as far as I know.
Okay, Tri-X 400, which is then with the development push to bring out a bit more of the light. So a film camera, an
Absolutely.
analog
and
camera.
My most favorite film camera, and I own two of them.
And it's quite sizable, so we call it the Beast, right?
Yeah, it's a massive tank-like built camera.
6.7. Look it up. Okay.
And actually, part of the story is what I experienced with this camera before I went into the market. So
I'm just Googling Pentax 6.7. We'll have a quick look at this camera. So, this is what you can expect from that. There we go. That's a Pentax 6.7. Quite a massive.
This is actually a 6x7, and it's not a 6.7, but it's
the same,
looking
almost.
quite.
They look very similar.
Very, very similar. Yeah.
So this is a beast of a camera. It's heavy. It's so big that you almost disappear behind it.
It has a nice form factor because a lot of the normal medium format cameras, you have to look. You keep them in belly height, and you look through the viewfinder and then top-down viewfinder. And this one is like a regular SLR. And it's very easy in handling, I think, apart from it being really, really heavy.
And it's modular, so you can take that prism off. And that prism alone weighs almost as much as a small Sony mirrorless camera, you know?
Yeah,
it is.
Correct.
So Anyway, back to the photo. So you are there with this big camera. Can you tell us a bit about the experience with shooting film in a place like Ethiopia?
Yeah, shooting. The thing with film is, especially when shooting medium format, is that you have to change the film every so often. So
how many
on
pictures?
my roll of film with a 6x7 produces 10 pics.
After 10 photos,
After 10 pics, you have to change the film. And that is exactly what I did right before I entered that market. And the experience when you, in a town where people live, when you then come with a camera, you are the oddball only because of the camera. Because, of course, whenever you take a picture, people want to look at the back, look at the display and check out what kind of photo you took. So this was one of the expectations I could never fulfill. So they checked out my display. There was no display, and there was actually nothing they could see. And they had a big question mark in their eyes. And I, of course, with hand and feet and smiles, I wanted to kind of explain what happened. The second thing was right before we entered that market, I had to change film. So I took myself a bit out of the way, leaned against a wall of a house of some sorts, nestled out one of my rolls of film and tried to kind of disappear while doing my thing with the film. That, of course, did not work out. So the kids first, because they are basically fearless and they are super curious. So they came closer, and all of a sudden I had about, I think, 10 to 15 kids around me, checking out what I was doing. Of course, touching everything in the open camera. I mean, you have the camera open, you have a film there. You, of course, want to nestle out the roll. You know the 6x7. Sometimes the roll doesn't want to come out, so you have to shake the camera or have nails, which I never have. When I travel, I always have nails as short as possible. So it was quite difficult to get the old film out of the camera. And then, of course, when you have to put the new one in, you have to kind of fit it into the screws that are in there. So, and while I was doing that, they touched everything of the camera. So the back, the inside, more or less, even the shutter cloth in there. So that the curtain, that was a bit of a tricky thing. So it took me so much. It survived, but I think I have never spent so many minutes to choose to change one roll of film, because I was, of course, then nervous, trying to keep everything to not let the film roll disappear somewhere. And I got used to it later on. So I got used to changing film in public, so to say, and being watched. But this first time before we entered that market, that was quite an experience.
And it was a new experience for you.
Absolutely new. After when I finished, there were not only 15 kids, but also some of the parents, because they ran home or ran in the market, got their parents. Look what she's doing there. So I had quite an audience. Changed the film, and some of them even followed me then into the market to see what I would be doing with a camera. And
okay.
the strange reddish blonde person there. Yeah.
Okay, so what are we looking at there? It's a scene of two kids, not just posing for the camera, but they're washing dishes there.
They were doing the dishes. And they were quite busy when I came. And some of their friends actually alerted them that there was somebody coming with a camera, and somebody foreign and strange looking, so to say.
So they were prepared.
They were prepared from their friends. They put away the dishes and they started dancing and fooling around. So, and of course they wanted me to take their picture. It was not that I had to ask them, but they told me with gesture and everything, take our pictures, we are cool. Yeah. And of course I did. Yeah.
And I like the depth in this, where you have several levels with the hand in the front, very close, and then the kids, and then the person in the background. Did you do anything in terms of editing the photo?
The only thing I actually did was, two things I did. I adjusted the contrast a little bit, not too much, but because when you're going for film and you're going for Tri-X is pretty elastic, so to say, so forgiving. So I had to adjust the contrasts a bit, and then I had to clone out Tim.
Who was another photographer who was with us, and he was in the background.
He was always in my background. So that was the trip where I'd always Tim where he should not be, because I wanted to have Ethiopia in the pictures and not this German guy. So I had to clone him out here. He was in the back where the sunlight comes in. So yeah, he had to go.
But thanks to Affinity Photo, we managed to get to remove him without it being visible. So
yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Affinity Photo for the win.
Even film photos will need some retouching sometimes. Mm-hmm. Okie dokie. Let us move on. Thank you so much for sharing this. Let's move on to
You're welcome.
The photo that you chose, and that is titled Lukla Airport. What do you want to know? You've been there.
Yes, exactly. What do I want to know? I assume this was early in the morning. Am I correct? Early in the morning, us walking up to getting the first flight home from Lukla, right?
I believe it was after arrival in Lukla. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure because we've been there several times. So what we're looking at is Lukla Airport, which is a small mountain airport in the Himalayas. And as you can see, what we're looking at is the runway, the only runway. And to the right back, you can see this is where airplanes come in from. Yeah. So they land on, I think, a 15-degree slope. So they land up the hill. And then they have to brake really hard because the end of the runway, that's where we are standing on top of a wall. So there's a chain link fence that I leaned the camera on top of. It's fairly high, so I had to kind of like be on tiptoes to take this photo.
It's really wide angle, right? 24 millimeters.
It's my usual 24 millimeters. I think it is. Yeah, it's around that. Maybe even a bit wider. I think at that time I had the 17-40 with me, so it might be even a bit wider. And I don't have the EXIF here. And by the way, you can see another chain link fence on the bottom of it further down. So. Yeah, so this is Lukla Lukla Airport. Look it up. It's
one of the most beautiful airports, but it has also
it has a reputation.
It has quite a reputation to be one of the most dangerous airports to land on.
Yeah, I don't think it is that dangerous. I mean, the pilots are really well trained.
I have always felt really safe, and I love this place. So I wanted to know what do you remember? What are your inner feelings looking at that picture? Because coming to mind later, but what are yours?
So again, I remember the situation. I believe it was we arrived. The turnaround of the airplanes is like 5 minutes. So you arrive, you get almost kicked out of the plane. It has to be fast because they need to get out of there because the weather changes so fast. So it was this turnaround, and then we came up to some tea house just to get a welcome tea and arrange our stuff, and then I think me and someone else went over to that corner just to get this photo. So it wasn't the first time I was there, so I kind of knew where to go because you can. It's not that easy to photograph. It's not that easy to get a good photo of that runway without too many other things in the way. So I kind of knew where to go. I went straight there. I stepped on that side of the concrete base of that fence and went on my tiptoes and arranged this photo. I'm using a 24 tilt shift, so I shifted it so that the foreground gets more pronounced, more emphasized, very prominent. The 24, which I think means 240 degrees on the compass or something. And then I waited because I wanted this with an airplane, but none came. But then I saw this person. If you look really close, you see this person crossing the runway, And I think there's another person on the left.
There's one on the left. I like that, because they frame kind of those massive numbers.
Not just that,
front,
they also both give this thing scale, and then you realize how big it is. And so feeling wise, I was very happy to be back there, because I really love that area, and that's where you start hiking towards up the Khumbu Trail up towards Mount Everest Base Camp. So that's the start and the end of our tours usually. Exactly,
and I chose this picture because of the end of our tours, because I have a very, very strong recollection of a moment where we approached this airport from this angle, because we wanted to fly back home,
and we couldn't.
And this was we could. It was on the first trek, Everest Trek 2009. And the funny thing was that when we came back from the trek, we hadn't showered for 14 days, basically.
I remember that,
so
yes.
We arrived at a hotel near to the airport, and I took my first shower there, and it took me about, I think, 10 minutes to get the soap to produce some foam to really clean me up. And it was. I don't know how often I try to clean my hair. So I think it took me 3 times to get all the mud and all the stuff out of it, all the muck. It was really
on that
gross.
first trek we spent we didn't go to guest houses. We only went to guest houses to eat. We slept in tents, and that made the whole showering business quite difficult. Yes,
quite difficult. And I know that we had then the first night in a proper bed for 14 days, and I know that I really didn't sleep well. The proper bed was kind of disturbing for me.
It was too soft, right?
It was too soft, and then we had to get up really early in the morning because we wanted to take out the very first slide, and we had this bluish light that you can see here on that picture. So the very almost misty atmosphere, very blue light when we arrived at the airport, and I know I felt so tired after the first night in a proper bed. I was so done with it, and then looked at this beautiful scenery. And basically, the flight we took was the only one that got out at that day, because after we left, they closed down the airport.
Yeah. So I think this was not that time when I took this, and I distinctly remember standing there. And around me, left and right, there were other hikers that were also looking. And so there was probably 10 people looking down at the runway and hiking back and forth behind me, because there is tourism there. People go there. People want to hike there. You see a lot of people with hiking sticks and backpacks. And this looks much more quiet than it actually is. So you have more traffic. Then when you get onto the trek, then it changes and it gets very different. But Lukla is kind of the hub down there, where people arrive and leave. All right. Well, I think let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for sharing your photo. And this was a different one, a different dynamic, because we know each other's photos. And this is interesting. Let's do that again. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.